There are fewer than 30 men in the world qualified to drive Formula One. A mere half dozen, perhaps, to win. At this moment, I'm inclined to think you're not one of them.
No, you want to. Keep up the good work, Stephen, and there you have it. There you go.
Hello, this is Desiree for F1weekly.com. I'm your in-depth correspondent.
Let's go. Qualifying, Steve.
Welcome to F1weekly.com. My name is Clark Rogers. I'm the host of the program. I'll be joined by Nasser Hamid, my co-host. This is podcast number 807, October 21st. 2019. Nasser?
Arigato, monsieur. I say noodles and pins for Ferrari. Mercedes singing We Are the Champions. And Wingman is the Mercury rising in Japan. Now back to Clarkson.
Thank you, Nasser. On today's program, so is Vettel number 2? Renault will be gone by 2021. And some claim that Ferrari is cheating. And just a reminder, we need your contributions to keep this program on the air. Just click on the Support F1 Weekly tab on the front page. You know you want to. Nas, welcome to the studio. How are you?
I am doing very good, sir. Greetings from the right coast to the left coast. How are you? Gee, what a surprise. 2 red cars on the front row. Another almost certain win thrown away between the start and first turn. As I said many months ago, everybody wants to help Lewis win the championship this year. Big disappointment for the natives as Honda-powered Max is pushed off the track early on the opening lap, while Leclerc puts on a sparkling show while dissing team's instructions to box. Bottas celebrates his 100-point scoring finish, and Mercedes team's record-setting 6 successive double constructors and now guaranteed drivers' championship by being the Ninja Warrior and dominating the Grand Prix in Nihon. Why was the race confusing for you, sir?
Of course. I mean, why don't we say everybody's got expanding Michelin tires or some funky, weird suspension that's similar to a Duchevaux?
Now let's take a look at Collie. Robert Kubica and Kevin Magnussen wasted no time in hitting the barriers. Kubica called it high price for small off. Also eliminated in Q1 were Sergio Perez, George Russell, and big surprise was Daniel Ricciardo. Top 2 were no surprise. Charles Leclerc ahead of driver you call Lucky Dog. Bottas and Lewis then went 1-2 in Q2 with Albon very impressive third. Then came Q3. The Reds take over the front row with Seb taking his 5th pole position in Nihon. First time in 10 races, Seb was able to outqualify his teammate. Bottas outqualified LCH for the first time since Budapest, and they said nobody wins at Suzuka from the second row. I guess that gave Valtteri new motivation. Max and Albon had the same time in Q3, which will go down very well with Dr. Marco. So the grid was 2 Ferraris at the top, row 2 was all silver, third row was all Red Bull. McLaren driver Sainz Jr. and Lando Norris occupied row 4. Gasly and Grosjean started from row 5. Any final thoughts on Collie, sir, before we move on to the Grand Prix?
F1 Justice. Well, anyway, going to Japan, this race, I thought, was the most confusing race in America.
Lots of action and argy-bargy on the opening lap. Seb doing a Kimi before the lights went out. No penalty as, according to FIA, it was within the acceptable tolerance of the F1 jump start system, which formally defines a jump start. So I guess in the old days, the car moved before the start is no longer valid. One must respect the rules. In sympathy, his teammate Charles did not have a good start, and that allowed Wingman to take off into the lead. The wingman was flying at a different altitude throughout the race. This was his first win since Azerbaijan in April, when he had 2 wins from the first 4 races. He is now the only driver who can stop LCH taking his 6th title. There is a 68-point gap, but you never know in this business. He will need to win most of the remaining 4 races and Lewis not scoring in few races, a highly unlikely scenario. On top of that, Ferrari drivers and Max may come in his way to the top step of the podium. And surprisingly, Max has now come out saying that he is not expecting any more wins for Red Bull, but we shall see. A left tap from Leclerc pushed Max off the track in turn 2. The stewards deemed it racing incident and did not give any penalty to the Ferrari driver, which is good as we do not want a repeat of Canada. Charles can put it down to payback for Austria. But few laps later the stewards announced, after they got more evidence and more video angles, that incident would be investigated after the race. What happened was pretty impressive, with front damage and sparks flying for 2 laps. Charles ignored radio messages to him to box. Perhaps payback for Singapore. After the race came the penalty. Leclerc was penalized 5 seconds for his collision with Verstappen and a further 10 seconds for Ferrari delaying their decision to bring him to replace the front wing that was damaged in the incident. Together they demoted him from 6th to 7th. Sebastian Vettel, after the race, said that even if he had led on the opening lap, Bottas was just too quick for him. Seb's second place came under serious threat from Lewis late in the race on fresher tires, and I absolutely enjoy when these 2 present-day grandmasters are racing in close company. Traffic gave some hope to Lewis to make a move, but surprisingly Seb did not spin or go off track. Max was riding a wounded Red Bull and came into the pits right away and carried on with quite a bit of damage according to Mr. Horner. Max was complaining how the car was handling and retired from the race on lap 18. With Verstappen out of the race, 4th place was taken by his teammate Alexander Albon, who had excelled in qualifying by matching the Dutchman's lap time in qualifying on his first experience of the Suzuka track. On the opening lap, there was also a little touch and go between Lewis and Carlos Sainz Jr., which makes your prophecy come true that he is a lucky dog. Alexander Albon did a Ricciardo-style late-braking move on the McLaren of Lando Norris, which came out more like Max's push-and-shove move. Contact was made between the 2 cars and damage was done on Norris's car. He finished a lap down in 13th. While Carlos Sainz Jr. may be Formula One self-appointed smooth operator, I think Albon is the quiet operator. His career best 4th place finish matches the best ever finish in Formula One by a Thai driver. Long time ago, Prince Pira took 4th in the 1954 French Grand Prix at Reims, also known as Reims in plain simple English, and he was driving a Maserati. Albon is looking more and more likely to be teammate to Max next season. Not bad for a driver who was discarded by Red Bull not too long ago. Now we come to your favorite cars, San Nando. Renault, both cars were in the points. Danny Rick was 6th and soon to be departing Nico Hülkenberg 10th, thanks to checkered flag being shown a lap earlier instead of at the end of lap 53. But wait, there's more. Reds are running around squealing their car has an automatic brake bias adjustment system. This is a claim from Racing Point, and FIA will investigate the matter further. Carlos Sainz Jr., Carlito, as he is lovingly called in España, has established himself as the new muy macho hombre de España at McLaren. He was 5th, over a minute behind Bottas. Carlito is 6th in the championship with 76 points. His teammate Lando Norris is 12th in the standings with 35 points, and frankly I was expecting more of a cage rattling from Lando Norris, kind of what we are seeing at Ferrari. but the kid is only 20 years old, and let's see how it works out next season. Charles Leclerc from front row start to 7th, a lap down in the fastest car was not what Dr. Binotto ordered. The kid is quick, and if Ferrari throw their weight behind him, he could be the youngest F1 world champion next year. Max may have issues with that, but I don't think Max will have the package to mount a season-long challenge to dethrone Lucky Dog from the porch. Pierre Gasly was 8th and also a lap down. Sergio Perez crashed out on lap 52 of 53 and should have been outside the points, but the lucky Guicha doll was smiling on him, and magically the checkered flag was waved at the end of lap 52, and he was classified 9th. According to FIA, there was some software glitch as far as the displaying of the checkered flag was concerned, and they are looking into it. Williams, both cars were 2 laps down at the end of the race. What a surprise. Bobby K is now totally on the BB King program. The thrill is gone and love is leaving town at the end of the season. I can't wait to hear what talented and hardworking Trastafarian driver Claire will bring to the team. Oh, Claire. Now, sir, let's take a look at the championship. Your favorite lucky dog, Lewis Carl Hamilton, leading 338 points. Bottas second, 274. Charles Leclerc is third with 221. And Max and Seb have same number of points, 212. Hard to believe Max has more wins than Sebastian Vettel in a Ferrari. On the constructors front, all locked up and sailed. Mercedes, the champion, 612 points. Ferrari second at the moment, 433. Red Bull third, 323. Then McLaren, 111. And Renault, 77 points. Red Bull are the last team other than Mercedes to win the constructors title, and Ferrari's last time at the top was all the way back in 2008. Now we shall look at some points to ponder. Max was on the podium in last 3 Grand Prix at Suzuka, so pretty sad the performance could not continue this time around. Ferrari front row lockout was number 64, matching the record of Mercedes-Benz. Now there were 4 other times that qualifying was moved to Sunday. By the way, did you like qualifying on Sunday, monsieur?
No.
Now we shall look at a quick brief look at some other time, the 4 other times that qualifying moved to Sunday and what happened there. Japan 2004, Michael Schumacher duly taking pole position, then the win, and the championship with Ferrari. It was also the last time the Schumacher brothers took a 1-2. And in case people have forgotten, his younger brother was Ralf Schumacher. Japan again in 2010, Sebastian Vettel reigned on Webber's parade, taking pole and then victory, with Webber settling for second. Australia 2013, Seb takes pole, Kimi wins for Lotus, very impressive. Austin 2015, a race I went to, but given the conditions there, I watched the race from the beautiful Austin airport. Q3 was ultimately cancelled, so Q2's results were used, putting Nico Rosberg on pole ahead of Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton. In slightly better conditions, Hamilton managed to snatch victory away from a frustrated Rosberg hours later on his way to a second consecutive championship. And interestingly, Mr. Rogers' Suzuka, designed by Mr. John Hugenholtz of the Netherlands as a test track for Honda originally, the track has 18 turns, including the famous S's and the, spoon curve, but it's still taken 72% of the time at full throttle. Most successful driver with 6 victories here, no surprise, Michael Schumacher.
We'll be back after these brief messages.
Hi, I'm Giancarlo Fisichella, and you are listening F1 Weekly.
Welcome back to F1weekly.com. Clark Rogers here, your host. And now, as we spin the globe and go around the world with Motorsports Mondial and the king, the Swami himself, Nasser Hamid.
Now we come to Motorsports Mondial. Greetings and championship after championship regards for and from Marc Marquez. What a talent this kid is. In 2013, he won the championship as a rookie. In 2014, he won the first 10 straight races. But Marc Marquez, who has just won the 2019 season, is rating this season as his best because he was pushed by different people. And just, this past weekend, we had the Japanese Grand MotoGP at Motegi, Twin Ring Motegi as they call it, and surprise, surprise, he won that event also. Next, we have the case of Beavis versus Honey Badger. After being heard by the English courts, which revealed the staggering figures of the salary of Honey Badger, that is, Mr. Daniel Ricciardo, after his transfer to the French team, Ricciardo and his manager Glenn Beavis settled their dispute out of court. The advisor demanded a commission of 20% on the total amount of the contract, or $12 million, and brought the case to the High Court of Justice in London last summer. The document presented at the time revealed that the deal was worth $55 million for 2 years. This to me is equivalent to Toyota paying Ralph Schumacher $25 million just to have that Schumacher name. And the question is, why pay so much money when you do not have a competitive car in which even Nando cannot win a race? But that's just my opinion. What say you, Mr. Rogers?
It's called the Le Stupide factor. Très stupide.
In other events, sir, we had the Bathurst 1000 happen, known as the Great Race and Land Down Under. Seems like Mr. Penske is winning everywhere this season. Roger owns a team in Aussie supercars with Dick Johnson, and their boys, Scott McLaughlin and Alexander Prema, won the race. Scott is from New Zealand, and Alexander Prema was champion in A1GP for Team France and was on his way to Formula One when he had the immense pleasure of racing in GP2 with a rookie teammate at ART Racing, and that rookie was Lewis Hamilton, the lucky chien as you call him. And we all know what happens when you become teammates to such drivers while you are on the highway to Formula One. The only exit signs you see say the same thing. Access denied. Sad but true. Second place went to Shane van Gisbergen, who is also from New Zealand. He co-drove with veteran and former winner Garth Tinder. James Courtney took advantage of brilliant pit strategy to take third with co-driver Jack Perkins. Zach Brown and Michael Andretti are part owners of this team. James Courtney was also on his way to Formula One till he had a massive testing accident, very serious, driving a Jaguar at Monza Autodromo. IndyCar stars Alexander Rossi and James Hinchcliffe finished 19th in their Napa Auto Parts / US Concrete Holden Commodore. Mr. Rogers, since you are a rock-solid star of podcasting, may I suggest you request US Concrete to click on the donate button. You know they want to. Over at Road Atlanta, fantastic track, not too far from Atlanta, of course. Petit Le Mans race winner, cousin Felipe Nasser and his teammates Eric Curran and Pipo Derani. But the championship was won by Mr. Penske's team of Dane Cameron and Juan Pablo Montoya, the one and only. Now Chase Carey finally gets to do the Miami Beach Rumba. It's just a matter of convincing the locals. F1 and Hard Rock Stadium have agreed in principle to host a Miami Grand Prix in 2021. I think this will happen. The gentleman who owns Miami Dolphins, obviously he has, lots of zlotys and Turkish liras and US dollars and other currencies in his bank account. So I think hopefully they won't have the issues from the high-heel, well-off retirees of Miami in the downtown area, but hopefully the Hard Rock Stadium will allow them to make some motorsports music. And this is really a fantastic destination city. And I was thinking, if they are looking for destination city, what could be better than having a race in Sydney around the Sydney Opera House? That will be absolutely gorgeous. Moving to money matters, Petrobras, the big Brazilian state-owned oil company, they are claiming that they have terminated their $163 million sponsorship of the McLaren F1 team. And the spokesman for the Brazilian president said, and I quote, an unjustifiable Petrobras sponsorship agreement for the McLaren Formula One team worth $163 million was terminated, end of quote, which is around, I think, $200 million. And my question is, how much oil is Petrobras selling, especially in retail outlets in Europe? I sure would like to know. And same is the case with millions and millions of dollars Petronas of Malaysia is spending on Mercedes, and I'm not sure how much retail operations they have in Europe. I do know they did buy an Italian oil company some years ago, but, let's see how it flows down the road. And finally, sir, we come to famous last words. Haas Formula One chief Günther Steiner has been fined 7,500 euros for his outbursts against one of the FIA race stewards following the Russian Grand Prix. Steiner was summoned ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix after hitting out at one of the stewards when Haas driver Kevin Magnussen received a 5-second time penalty for cutting a corner and allegedly gaining an advantage. The FIA stated that Steiner said, and I quote, "If we didn't have a stupid, idiotic steward, we would be 8. You know who is the steward. You know him. It is always the same. He just does not get any more intelligent." End of quote. Now, sir, we look forward to the Gran Premio de Mexico, which I shall enjoy with Corona con Limon and some in-flight burrito. Who do you think will win the race? I think, despite Max saying he is not going to win any more races, I think he may do something well in Mexico. He has won there, pushing and shoving once upon a time. But I think it will be a Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton show. But time will tell how this thing works out. But it's a race that I'm very happy is happening because there is a lot of interest. Always good to see excited, enthusiastic fans at a racetrack, and of course this track I like very much. And if our friend Mr. Senor Eduardo is going to the race, please send us some photographs, and I thank him again for taking me to the Hermanos Rodriguez circuit a few years back. And you shall see me in Mexico City soon for another race. Gracias, and I say thank you for listening. Bye now.
But that's not going to happen. I'm afraid it's LCH this year, LCH next year. And boy, I don't even know what's going to happen in 2021. I want to thank everybody who listens. Good night.